Greetings and welcome to the Wealth for Real YouTube channel. I'm your host, Christopher Anastasio. It's Friday, February 16th, 2024. Hope everybody's having a great Friday and a great start to the weekend if it's already started for you. The purpose of this video, guys, is to talk more about a tweet that I sent a few days ago or so, maybe several days ago, about the conversion, the steady, gradual conversion of what used to be the middle class, the term that was used to describe the bulk of individuals in this country, into what I would call the debtor class, such that now we have, in my opinion, my humble non-economist, non-sociologist opinion, we have three main classes of people in this country. We have wealthy individuals, we have poor individuals, and instead of a middle class, we now have a debtor class. And so let me bring up the tweet that I'm referring to. Of course, unfortunately, it means my face has disappeared. Maybe fortunately for some of you, I don't know why it does that, but anyway, this is the tweet that I'm talking about, guys. And I can't see. Okay, it looks like I posted this to Facebook on February 12th. That was what was that, Monday, I think. Yeah. So earlier this week, and as you can see, it was a tweet from Unusual Whales, one of many tweets that have caused me to feel what I felt when I put this tweet out. But a tweet from Unusual Whales basically saying, "Hey, Americans now owe a collective $1+ trillion on their credit cards, an all-time high." And I mean, you look at this chart, guys, and this is staggeringly alarming. I mean, if you just go back to 2021, you're below 800 billion. And, in less than 3 years, you've added 300 billion plus to this. I mean, what's 300 over 750? I mean, 40% increase, something like that. I mean, I'm no mathematician, so I apologize for that, guys. But yeah, I mean, just an incredibly steep incline here in credit card debt. I mean, extremely alarming. So anyway, that's where this all kind of started. And then it prompted me to write this. I have three classes: the wealthy, the debt, or I should have put debtor, probably would have been a little better, formerly middle class, and then poor. So why am I saying that, guys? And really would be interested. I'm just going to switch back over here for a second. Okay, well, thought that would bring my face back up, but anyway, so we don't need that part. You guys can imagine the hand gestures I'm making. Here's the thing, guys. You go back to the 70s. You go back to the decoupling from the gold standard in 71. President Nixon obviously did that. You see the dollar has really plummeted in value since 71. Obviously, since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, the dollar has lost value. We all know that if you're a fan, quote unquote, of the Federal Reserve. But really a very distinctly sharp decline in the value of the dollar since 1971. I think essentially it's down to being worth pennies on that dollar. If you go back to 71, whatever a dollar bought, or a dollar today, you only needed like a couple of cents in 1971, something like that. That kind of a ratio in terms of how far it's fallen. But you look at that inflation that sort of came through the 70s on the backs of that. Decoupling from the gold standard, the fact that, lifestyles started to change in the 70s. Instead of single income households, which had held fairly steady, if I understand correctly, certainly through the 50s and even into the 60s, by the 70s, you saw households go to double income households. Now, there's a lot of dynamics there. I mean, obviously, more women entering the workforce, wanting to enter the workforce, certainly. Don't want to discount those things, but let's face it, guys. I think there was a lot of people who entered the workforce, male or female, who had to enter the workforce. It wasn't just hey, I feel like working today. I didn't feel like it yesterday. I think a lot of it was driven by the economics of the situation, guys. It just wasn't something that people just, completely across the board just felt like doing all of a sudden. There was a need to add income to households to keep up, to be able to do the things people expected to do, live the middle-class lifestyle they expected, own a home, buy a car, buy a second car, go on vacation a couple times a year. So that inflation, that effect of decoupling from the gold standard, that that sort of shift in lifestyle, the expanding of the workforce, the double income households and so forth, really kind of underscore where I think the biggest shift in this effect right here, this middle class becoming a debtor class, really kind of sprang up. And so, what I kind of mean by this, guys, to expound on that a little bit is, for the longest time, yes, people needed loans to buy a home. People typically, or at some point or another, needed loans to buy a car. Certain very large purchases, it was fairly understood that most people were going to borrow money to do it. You were going to borrow money to buy a home. You were going to borrow money to buy a car. Excuse me. But, and I would certainly posit that at some point in time, even that may not have been true. Like, let's say with vehicles, maybe it was a situation where people could save up enough cash and go buy a vehicle or something like that. I mean, I can't recall it, and I don't know if it actually was true or not, but I suspect there was probably a point in time where maybe it was possible, at least for some people. But certainly those big purchases, I think people got used to the idea, hey, you got to go to the bank. The bank's going to give you a loan to buy a home. The bank's going to give you a loan to buy a car. Got it. What I think is happening now, guys, is it's not just the big stuff, okay? It's not just the big stuff that you got to borrow, okay? People are living off credit for other things. Now, look at some of these indicators that we see, right? Like this is maybe not even the best one. I've seen Unusual Whales and other accounts put out some really good information on credit card delinquencies spiking and being at an all-time high since I think one of the years that I saw was 2011, that we hadn't seen credit card delinquencies this high since 2011. Of course, 2011 was 3 years removed from the Great Recession, but we're already seeing stuff like that. We haven't even been hit with something really significant. So, also car loan delinquencies rising, going up to numbers that we haven't seen in a while. So, and again, I don't have more hard data for you guys on that, but if you just do a couple searches out there, I think you guys are going to see this information fairly readily available, that this is the kind of stuff that's going on. So to me, the reason I say this here, guys, the reason I made this comment, we have a debtor class, not a middle class, is because the class of people in the middle who, if you go way back to the original definition, like, okay, what's a middle class person in America, circa 1950, 60, and it certainly didn't apply to everybody. I don't want to even pretend it did. But if the definition held true for somebody, what did it mean? It meant that, one income bought everything, it got the home, it got the car, it got the 2 vacations, there was cash left over, nobody was worrying about whether there was food on the table or not. Okay, so a middle class person in that period of time, you could live off the cash from that one income. Okay, notice I'm saying cash, not credit. Okay, but as the decades have gone by, we have obviously seen that change and change significantly. And it's at the point now, and this is somewhat anecdotal, but I know I've seen it out there, how many people report living off their credit card? How many people report having to buy groceries on a credit card? Food on by credit, okay? How many people, don't have, here's a big one, guys. I mean, I've read articles about this. How many people don't have $400 for an emergency, like in emergency savings? Couldn't cover a $400 expense out of cash in savings. I mean, the number's enormous. I wish I remember the article. I should have had it ready for you guys and brought it up. I read an article now several years ago, and even before the pandemic. I'm talking probably like in the 18-19 time frame, it was a staggeringly high number of people, way more than I think most people would expect, that could not cover an emergency expense of $400. They'd have to pay for it with a credit card, have to borrow it, have to go to somebody else for it. They couldn't pay it out of their savings account, couldn't pay it out of their checking account with cash. Okay, so that's why I made this comment, guys. This is going to be a recurring theme for me as things like this get exacerbated. I think this is the tip of the iceberg, guys. I mean, I think this number is going to look quaint after we get the big, tsunami coming in off, commercial real estate collapse, housing market collapse, stock market collapse, everything collapses. I mean, this number is going to look tiny, compared to that. I mean, God knows where it's going to go. Okay, so I just want to give you guys, I had tweeted this and it kind of stands alone, but I wanted to give it a little vocal exposition and talk through my mentality when I wrote this, what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and again, a lot of it is just, kind of scattered data that I'm kind of just aggregating in my brain, and I'm ascribing it back to this concept that we have this slow, gradual, boil the frog slowly kind of transition from what once was a middle class, get a good job, get paid, and you can live a fairly good life in this country, right? That was kind of the mantra, right? Even though we know it didn't apply to everybody. But where it did apply, it kind of held true. But that is changing into a class of individuals who are definitely not wealthy, and they don't consider themselves poor. And I think technically they would not be considered poor, but they are living off of credit. They require credit, debt, in order to finance the basic elements of their lifestyle, even in some cases down to buying food. Okay, basic necessities are acquired in some instances or consistently with credit. So anyway, really interested to hear what you guys think about this. Please drop a comment below. Sorry my face disappeared. I had a lot of emotion behind this video, but it will not come across. But would love to hear what you guys think. Comment, question, your 2 cents. Do you agree with this? You think this is not true? You don't think this is happening? It's not as extreme. Maybe you think it's worse than this. But would really be excited to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Of course, everybody who's already supporting the channel, I just got to say, I can't tell you how appreciative I am. I've had some comments come in, some really positive feedback on some of the recent videos and stuff. That, to be honest with you guys, that stuff means the world to me. Whoever I am reaching, if it's bringing value to you, if it's sparking thought, if it's prompting you to drop a comment like that, I cannot thank you enough for doing that and for just watching the videos, even if you're not commenting or communicating back. I really, really appreciate it, guys. So I hope everybody has a great mid-February weekend. We'll be back with you guys next week with some more videos. And with that, happy Friday, guys. Until next time. Bye-bye.